One character spends an entire day writing a message. The other replies in seconds, with one word. And somehow, that tiny exchange ends up being more interesting than the actual plot of the episode. Episode 6 of Polar Opposites looks like it's setting up a very familiar story. A boyfriend gets jealous, a charming new guy appears, and suddenly the episode seems like it's going to revolve around that tension. But while that's happening in the background, the show quietly introduces something else, a conversation about texting. Nishi spends an entire day writing a long reply. Yamada responds immediately with just a single word, and now both of them feel like they somehow messed it up. It's awkward, it's slightly painful, and it's also strangely real. Because the problem isn't that either of them did something wrong, it's that they are both overthinking the exact same moment from completely different sides. And the more episode 6 spends time on these small interactions, the more something strange starts to happen. The supposed side characters begin to feel like the most interesting part of the story, which raises a quiet question the episode never directly asks. What if the real polar opposites in this anime aren't the ones the show tells us to focus on? Before any of that texting awkwardness even matters, episode 6 introduces what looks like the real conflict. Miu runs into an old middle school friend. At first the show doesn't even show his face. You just see him standing there talking with everyone. And for a moment it feels like the episode is setting something up. Then the reveal happens. Rihito. He's tall, confident, funny, and immediately gets along with everyone. Which, of course, is exactly the kind of character that tends to create problems in a high school romance. Because once he appears, the focus naturally shifts towards Tani. And suddenly, the episode looks like it's going to follow a very familiar direction. The boyfriend starts feeling insecure, a charismatic guy from the past shows up, and the story seems ready to build tension around that. Even the way the scene is presented reinforces that idea. For a moment, Rihito feels almost like a rival, like someone who might disrupt the balance between Miu and Tani. But something interesting happens as the episode continues. That tension never really becomes the emotional center of the story till the end. While the episode keeps the jealousy plot moving in the background, it quietly spends time somewhere else, with Yamada and Nishi, and their problem is much smaller, but somehow much more relatable. They both think they messed up a text message. Nishi spends an entire day writing a long reply, Yamada responds immediately with a single word, and afterwards, both of them start worrying that they handled the moment wrong. So Nishi talks to Honda about it, and Honda points out something simple. The stress Nishi is feeling probably isn't coming from anything Yamada actually did. It's coming from the way she's replaying the situation in her own head. And that's what makes this interaction feel so different from the jealousy plot happening elsewhere in the episode. Because nothing dramatic is actually happening here. No rival, no conflict, no big emotional confrontation, just two people quietly overthinking the same moment from opposite sides. And the more the episode lingers on those awkward little details, the more it starts to feel like this might be the real emotional center of the story. And then the episode gives us a small moment that quietly confirms it. The group is walking home together after school. Nothing dramatic is happening. Everyone is just talking and joking. But during the conversation, Nishi brings up something she's been worrying about, her laugh. She wonders if it might be strange or annoying. It's the kind of insecurity people usually keep to themselves. But somehow, the conversation drifts there naturally. And Yamada's response is surprisingly simple. He tells her not to change it. Just like that, no dramatic speech, no big romantic moment, he just accepts that part of her without hesitation. And that tiny interaction ends up saying more about their dynamic than the entire jealousy plot running through the rest of the episode. Because while the episode pretends the tension is about rivals and insecurity, the moment that actually sticks with you is much quieter. Two people being awkward, overthinking everything, and slowly realizing that maybe they don't actually have to. By the end of episode 6, The jealousy plot resolves exactly the way you would expect. Danny gets nervous, Miyu reassures him, and the tension disappears almost as quickly as it appeared. But that storyline isn't really the part of the episode that lingers. What stays with you are the smaller moments. Two people awkwardly trying to communicate, both of them worrying they did something wrong, both of them unsure how the other person feels. And maybe that's why their dynamic feels so compelling, because they aren't dramatic opposites in the way most romance stories usually frame it. Nishi overthinks everything. Yamada, on the other hand, often just doesn't know what the right thing to say is. One reacts to uncertainty by worrying too much, the other reacts by saying almost nothing at all. And somehow, those two reactions end up colliding in the most awkward human way possible, which makes you start to wonder something the episode never actually says out loud. Maybe the real opposites in this story aren't the couple the show introduced first.